Hey kids, welcome back. Another episode of Todd's House of Speed. This is our first part in our maintenance for our John Deere, the second in the series and episodes. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of good stuff for you, all right? What I'm going to do today is I got a whiteboard up here I'm going to show you, and we're just going to do a brief walk around. So it is a 1991 John Deere 430 diesel. We're going to do an oil service today on the engine because we're starting, actually I'm late in the season getting this done. Do a valve check and adjust. We're going to fix the transaxle oil leak. There's a hose underneath there that I think that's leaking. While we're in there, we're going to do an oil service on that as well, and then we're going to do a wash and clean up and get that going on. All right? All right, so what we're going to do is, to make access easy, we're going to take our two side panels off, and we're going to start on this side and go to that side, get this out of the way so we can take a look and see, make sure we don't have any leaks on the engine. So let's go. So we're just going to check right now, because I haven't checked it. A lot of times, the front motor mounts on these, unfortunately they don't make these anymore. So a lot of parts you can still get on these. That's one thing which I think is kind of odd, is front motor mounts. So you're going to have to try, if they're broken, which they often are, is you're going to have to find them on the internet, which is what I did. So check your motor mounts. You want to check for leaks. Now, when I did the restoration, I had all the sheet metal off. I went and touched every nut and bolt, tightened everything. It was really mostly a service, a big service, if you will, and then a lot of cosmetic. This thing was in really good shape. I was very fortunate to find this. This was local. It was locally bought, locally owned. And even at 1,300 hours, this thing was as clean as a whistle on the inside. So I was very fortunate, and this machine will probably outlast me with good maintenance. All right, so let's just check in here. And so I put all new hoses, belts, some wiring. Just want to make sure there's nothing is leaking. It's not. Looks like it's dry over here. So let's go. You can see the side motor mount here, the rear one, the front motor mount. And then one thing I want to show right here, a lot of people don't know, because we're going to adjust the valves. There's an inspection plug, and I'll show you why John Deere put it right there. I don't see any leaks or anything, which is good, all right? So what we're going to do, but I do see some debris on top. We're going to go ahead, and the first thing we do is get our air filter out of the way and the tubing. I'm going to take the valve cover off. Now, I didn't buy a valve cover gasket because this thing hasn't run that long, and I just kind of took a bet that the valve cover gasket is going to be okay, that we can just lift it off and be fine. I guess we'll find out. So, and then we'll drain the engine oil, and we'll talk about how to adjust the valves. I'm going to show you the way I do it, but I'll also show you why this inspection hole is important. All right? John Deere made these things. There's so many design features. These really were made to be maintained and repaired. Just the small things are just simple, simple, simple. Some people, have you ever heard the word tractor simple? Well, here it is. I mean, it's, I'm not going to say it's not like a modern car. They really put a lot of thought into the design and the execution of this. So we're just going to get this out of the way. It's got a hose clamp on it. And we're just going to wiggle it. And then this just slides out. And we're going to check our air filter. You can see in there, still looks pretty good. We're going to blow it out, but nothing complicated, right? Right now, I'm just going to put it behind here. We're going to concentrate. Just take a look. I am going to, out of habit, and this is for anything, I'm going to put something down here. I promise you, if you've got the engine open like that, I don't care where you drop something, I promise you, that's where it's going to go. It's like a magnet. I don't know if it's just like some kind of law anyway. So I'm going to get a paper towel and I'm putting in that hole. That's what I'm going to do. I could be over here and then drop the nut and it would just some kind of magically somehow just make it right to the intake manifold, and of course the intake valve would be open and would drop it to the solid. Ask me how that happens. I promise you it would. All right, so I do see some debris around here, so I'm going to get an air hose and I'm going to blow that off. Now I've got compressed air. A lot of you, if you're doing something similar to this, you're working on your hot rod or whatever, and you don't have compressed air, well, I feel sorry for you. But you could use a leaf blower. So if you have a leaf blower, you can accomplish the same thing. So if you don't have a leaf blower, I feel sorry for you. But what you could do is take like an old paintbrush and get in here. The whole thing is you want to get the debris off, at least around, because we're going to take the valve cover off. So remember, cleanliness is next to godliness, especially in your engine. Just saying. There's only literally 2 bolts holding the valve cover down. Let me see if I can get the light a little bit better. How about we do this? Because the light's kind of like drowning out. So it's 12 millimeter. Thinking that the last time I did this, because this is actually swedged on, this is plastic or plastic composite, and they basically heat it. And I don't think it's coming off that fitting. So I think what I did last time is I pulled it off, and I've got some zip ties. You can see it's down there. It's just vented to atmosphere. So I'm going to pull it through the injection line. I don't think it's too much drama. So let me get a pair of dikes, side cutters, and cut that zip tie. These are snug. They're easy to over tighten. They don't need to be tight. They need to be tight enough. Take these out. Now I'm going to put these down here. I don't want to put them on my seat. And let's see if the engine gods will let us take this thing off and the valve covers, the gasket's in place. It's not the end of the world. We don't have it. All right. So we just got to be gentle. This tube will actually, it'll go back in place. Yay. Okay, so it's like an imprint. Basically, that's what it is, a rubber gasket. I think we're okay. It wasn't leaking before, so what we'll do is we'll like clean that. I'll show you a little trick, how to kind of refresh that. It'd be a good idea to put a new gasket on it if you had it. If the machine was older and had more hours on it, I'd definitely put a gasket on it. But I'll show you how to basically swell this and then use a little bit of a certain kind of lubricant. You can see, remember I said this thing was clean as a whistle? 1,300 hours. Now, when I bought it and took the valve cover gasket off, it looked just like that. So this thing, I think, led, for the most part, a pretty charmed life. I believe at the very least, the people that had it before, this was a one owner. They took, at least it was, from what I understand, all the service records were at the local John Deere place, and they kept it pretty good. What we're going to do now is, I'm going to go ahead and drain the engine oil, change the oil filter, and then we're going to adjust the valves. And I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. There's a quicker way. I'm going to show you what I do, and I don't care what kind of engine it is. I'm going to show you what I do to do a valve adjustment. All right? Let's go. All right, so we're underneath here, and this is the oil pan, and this is the oil pan drain plug. So we're going to go underneath here, break it loose. We got our pan ready right here. Got a couple of paper towels. One to set our drain plug on, and then we're going to all right.
so we're letting the oil drain. Also, I want to point out that whenever you're draining the oil that's on the engine or whatever, go ahead and let it drain out. I mean, don't be in a hurry. You'd be surprised, or at least I'm not, but people that do an oil service, I don't care what it's on, your hot rod, drag car, whatever, let it drain out. Don't be in a hurry to put that plug back in there, all right? Let all the bad crap come on out. That's what we're doing, all right? Let it drain. Matter of fact, you can see my shop foreman. Yeah, he's making sure I'm doing a good job. So thumbs up? I don't know, is there a thumbs up? So while we're underneath there, let's just look and do an inspection and see what's going on. See if there's anything leaking. I'm gonna pull the light back and try not to get in the camera. So this is our transaxle assembly right here. And you can see it's wet. Okay, so obviously something's going on. Here's our filter we're going to change. Here's our hose we're going to change. I think this is original hose. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty certain of it. I've got a replacement for John Deere over there on the table. But now's a good time to just look and see if anything is leaking or loose. Now here's an interesting thing is, so here's our drain plug. And I don't know if y'all can see this at home. It's one of the interesting things I think for John Deere simplicity. There is no washer, there is no O-ring, but what there is a machined flat, if y'all can pick that up, on the bottom of the oil drain plug. Well, actually on the face is what I want, not the bottom, but the face. And there's a machine face on the piece coming out. And I think really the whole idea is, to my knowledge, there's not a washer. That's the way this is made, where the two machine surfaces are made to seal. And I think that's part of the simplicity and the beauty of this. All right. So I think we're good right there. I'm gonna put this up in here. Well, I'm fumbling. There we go. That only took all day. Get this out of the way so I don't drop my ratchet in it, because sure enough, that's exactly what will happen. All right, just good and tight.
All right, so here's the oil filter. That's where they're in. This is on the left-hand side. Very easy to get to right underneath the injection pump. And I'm gonna take a big pair of channel locks. And it's just tight enough where I need some assistance to take it off. The rest by hand. And of course, it's going to drain down. That's all right. I'm not really worried about it. I've got the pan underneath. Just going to put it in there. So that nut's come loose. That's interesting. So we'll need to tighten that up. Okay, so we have some parts. Let me show you something. Local John Deere dealer here. If you think groceries are expensive, you think you need to go to your John Deere dealer and just see how expensive, like will $80 or $90, and see how little's in the bag, just like groceries. I'm just saying. Anyway, there's a price to pay, everybody. Even though it's a price to pay, make sure you put genuine John Deere parts on your tractor, whatever you're doing, anything, because I'm telling you, you might cry at the counter, just like Harley Davidson. There's some stuff that you're going to use the OEM, the factory, whatever it is, or Porsche. It's the same thing. There is some stuff, or most of the stuff, that you need to use the OEM manufacturer. All right? If you want to use Chinese parts, knock yourself out. But be very careful when you order, especially online. You may or may not get an actual from John Deere. And there is a difference, I promise you. All right, so let's see what's in this bag. It's like $80 or whatever. Oh, there's like 3 things. Great. So here's our oil filter. And you have the gasket there. So what we're going to do is look at a couple of my other videos, and I'm going to explain why I'm using Silglide. And very quickly, what this is a pure silicone paste, and that's exactly what you should be using on O-rings, anything else. Now, people might say, well, Todd, can I use oil? Yeah, you can use oil if you want, I'm not saying it's not right, but basically rubber is a petroleum product or petroleum derivative. Most of it is. And if you're using grease, well, guess what? Or oil, that's a petroleum product. Out of habit, Seal Glide. So look at my other video series with Porsche and why I use Seal Glide. All right? All right. So through the magic of television, and off screen, I tighten this nut up. This basically secures the pipe right here, the stand pipe that comes out for the oil filter. We're good to go. I'm just going to wipe it one more time, just make sure there's nothing in there. We're going to put this on hand tight. Did I stutter? I may have stuttered. Hand tight. So basically, once it hits, you want to go maybe 3/4 of a turn about from the time it hits, and that's plenty. Oh, look, the John Deere emblem's on top, so that must be, everything must be right with the world. That must be the torque spec. You see that? Money. All right. We're good to go. All right, now before we go any farther, we're going to take either some brake clean or some gum cutter, and I'm just going to rinse this oil off the block. Even though we are going to clean it later, I'm going to get that stuff off because I don't like it. It upsets me. So we're just going to clean the excess oil off. We still got our pan underneath there. This is brake clean. You could use pretty much anything, but it's going to cut it. So you could use gum cutters, pretty much that, or brake clean. This actually has a lot of alcohol in it, and not the good kind. All right? Yay, good to go. Whenever you drain the oil out, I don't care what it is, if you're doing an oil service, transmission, automatic, manual, engine, whatever, take a few minutes to look at what's in the pan. I always start off with a clean drain pan to make sure that if something starts to go wrong, you catch it early. So what am I looking for? That might be the question. Well, of course it's dirty, we know that, but I'm looking for anything that's shiny, any kind of metal flakes, anything like that, because now's the time to catch it. All right? So LED light, something really bright. I mean, they make it brighter than this, but I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to use this screwdriver. You can use anything. You can even use a paint stirrer. The whole idea is, but with you got the shiny in the back, so see if you're picking up any metal flakes. And it should just run smooth. There shouldn't be any lumps. And so this one's good to go. So that, what did that take? A minute? I don't even think it was a minute. So don't fret if you change your oil, and whatever you're changing the oil in, take a look at it. Drain it in a clean pan and take a look at it. Same method, you can take a screwdriver or something like that and let it drain on and look for any kind of metal flakes or chunks or anything. Because if you catch it early, I promise you it's going to be less expensive, even though it's going to just break your heart, whatever it is. You catch it then before the engine like turns a rod bearing or something's already going wrong. Fortunately, this looks normal. Actually, it looks very good considering there's like 100 hours on it. All right? Thumbs up. Todd, tech tip. All right, so we're going to do our valve adjustment, but before we do that, you might notice we didn't put oil back in it. That's okay. We're not going to do endless cranking and all that kind of stuff. It's fine. So don't panic. All right, this is just part of putting this in reverse order going back. So this right here, this is your fuel injection pump. This is the fuel stop solenoid. Now watch when I turn the key on. You see that? So the fuel is on, that's off. So the fail safe, you can see, is off. So if something happens here, the fail safe, it goes back. So watch it, let's do it one more time. Key on, fuel on, key off, the solenoid kicks it back off. So when we bump it, we're going to have to find a way, because this is a diesel. If it's got compression and fuel, it's going to light. So obviously we don't want it to start. So what we're going to do is if we look down here, we're just going to disconnect the fuel shut-off solenoid right down here. Okay, so we've just disconnected it, that's all. So we're going to turn the key on. You can see the fuel shut-off is not activated, so it's not going to start. And again, we're not going to sit there and crank and crank and crank. We're just going to bump it over. Now I'm going to show you what John Deere does, which I think is pretty neat. I'm going to ignore it. But basically, this is a convenience for people that when they go to adjust the valves, there's an inspection hole, and I'll point it out right here. It's in the front of the engine. So see this? There's just a rubber plug. Now, let me see if I can get a different angle here. So here, let me just clean this out. So if you see, there's a line here on the case and a line here. And then if you look up in there, what does that say? Can we see? See it? Does it say number 3? I think so. Number 3. So let me get this out of the, see if I can get it. Yeah, look at that. See where that says number 3? And it's almost right there. So check this out. If you really didn't know about valve adjustment, or you were a noob, or you didn't know what is what, John Deere puts that inspection hole, and it's kind of interesting. It's almost exactly lined up on number 3. So starting from the front of the engine back, it's 1 cylinder, 2 cylinder, 3 cylinder. So 1, 2, 3. So the reason they put that there is for right now, I could go and adjust both of the intake and exhaust valves on number 3, and then bump it over and be watching this and wait for number 1 and number 2. So the reason they put that there is so you would make sure. So that's for some people that are inexperienced. I think it's kind of neat. I've really not seen that before, but that is the purpose for, one of the purposes mainly is for that thing is on top dead center and both valves are closed and you can check the valve adjustment. So of course, I'm not going to do that. I'm just pointing it out. So I'm going to show you, I don't care what I'm working on, I want to see the valve go through its cycle and come back and wait till it opens the other one almost, and then I'm going to then adjust it. So of course, I'm just going to ignore this. But it's a feature that a lot of people aren't aware of on these. All right? So I'm going to put the plug back in, and then we're going to adjust the valves. So here's our valves up there. So of course, they're mechanical. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you my method of doing it. And these are all at 8 thousandths. I double checked this. So intake or exhaust, it's going to be measured here. It's 8 thousandths clearance, which is not much at all. It's not going to start. We're not going to sit there and crank it because there's no oil in it. We're just going to bump it. So we have I don't know if you can pick this up. We have an 8 thousandths feeler gauge. And I'm just going to go, this is what I do for all engines. I don't care what the manufacturer says. I don't. I want to see the valve go through its cycle. I want to make sure. It's just the easiest way. Okay, we're going to stop right there, turn the key off. Okay, perfect. So the whole thing is, when you're using a feeler gauge, if you're setting a valve adjustment, you should just have a slight drag. A slight. You shouldn't have to be forcing in there. It's hard to describe. If there was feel-o-vision, okay, if there was feel-o-vision on YouTube, I'd show you how to do this, what it feels like. But basically, you're putting underneath there, and there's just a little bit of drag. I think if it was any tighter, it would be too tight, okay? So we're good there. Let's bump it. Turn the key off. I'm going to go on our intake. Again, it's 8 thousandths. Okay, perfect. Go on the next one. Okay, yay. So when I went through this a while back, I said, of course, the valve adjustment, it was really loose. I don't think anybody had ever adjusted it. If it was a long time ago. In any case, so I'm setting it up for a season. You saw how long it took. It took longer to take the valve cover off than it did to actually adjust the valves. Not a big deal, but it's part of maintenance. Don't ignore it. All right? So we're good to go. So now we're going to take and get some of this debris off the top. We're going to put our valve cover back on, and I'll show you a little trick about the O-ring, essentially gasket, to make it swell a little bit, and then put some silver out on it. All right? Good to go. All right, so this is our valve cover, and you can see this is our, some people call it an imprint, but essentially it's a preformed O-ring gasket. Although this is flat, but essentially O-ring continuous. So what we're going to do is, we don't have a replacement. I think this is fine, but I'm going to show you a trick if it's not old. We're going to take a little bit of brake clean, and I'm over the trash can because I'm inside, and we're going to take, and you can use gum cutter. So there's two things you can use. You can use brake clean, which has alcohol. You can use gum cutter, and the reason I'm saying it, it will actually, let me get some of this stuff out of here, it will actually, believe it or not, it'll swell the rubber. You give it, we're going to hit it again. Now, it's not going to be like 50% or anything like that, but it will swell the rubber and clean it. So we kind of cheat a little bit here. Make sure all the stuff is out of there. All right. Going to wipe it, get it dry. All right. So now we're going to take some Silglide, and we're going to put just a wisp of it. I say a wisp, just a little bit. A little bit goes a long way. Because basically we're going to use this, the rubber is in direct contact with the metal surface, and through heat cycling, it's going to move a little bit. So by cleaning it and then making it swell just a little bit, we're good, that's all. Actually, there's a little bit of excess. So we're going to ensure a good seal. All right, so we're going to go back on the valve cover. You might notice that the plastic vent line is not attached. Well, through the magic of television, behind the scenes, it broke. I was trying to tuck it back in, so I think I can save it. So here's the whole thing. We're going to, probably just as well as we're going to put this back in, just sets down in there. And then we're going to use our two nuts, and you can see there's actually rubber, there's a little bit of rubber on the, that's what seals those. Take up, I'm going to torque it about that much. Y'all see that? Ready? Okay. Whatever that torque is, that's awesome. That's about how much it should be. All right? All right, kids. Thanks for watching. We have more subscribers every day, which is awesome. Please like, hit the bell, do all those things. This wraps up the part one of our maintenance. There's actually a couple of more parts, and I'm cut it up to make it, or edit it to make it short so I don't bore everybody. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. See you.